The heat in Mumbai wrapped around the city like a living thing, thick, restless, and impossible to ignore. Cars honked endlessly, people moved in every direction, and life pulsed through every street with an intensity that could overwhelm even the strongest minds. Sheikh Karim Al Hassan stepped out of his black luxury car, adjusting the cuff of his crisp white shirt. At 45, he carried himself with quiet authority, every movement controlled, every expression measured. Years of power, wealth, and responsibility had shaped him into a man people respected without question. But beneath that composed exterior there was something else, something quieter, heavier. A kind of loneliness that no amount of success had ever managed to fill. He glanced up at the half-constructed building before him. This was the reason he had come to India. A large development project, one that would expand his business influence across borders. For Karim it was just another deal, another achievement to add to a long list. Yet something about this place felt different. "Sir, the site manager is waiting," his assistant said, slightly bowing his head. Karim nodded. "Let's proceed." As he walked through the construction site, workers moved around him quickly, some stealing glances, others avoiding eye contact entirely. His presence carried weight, it always did. People were careful around men like him. But then, something unusual happened. A voice, firm, clear, and unafraid, cut through the noise. "Hey, that beam isn't aligned properly. If you fix it like that, it'll collapse within months." Karim stopped walking. It wasn't what was said, it was how it was said. He turned his head slightly, his sharp eyes scanning until they found the source. A young man stood a few meters away, his shirt slightly dusty, sleeves rolled up, hands steady as he pointed toward a structural flaw. He wasn't speaking to Karim, but to another worker. Still, there was something striking about him. Confidence. Not arrogance. Not fear. Just confidence. The worker he was correcting looked annoyed but still adjusted the beam. The young man watched carefully, making sure it was done right before stepping back. Karim's gaze lingered longer than usual. "Who is that?" he asked quietly. The site manager followed his line of sight. "Oh, that's Arjun, sir. One of the newer workers. But very sharp. Doesn't act like the others." Karim didn't respond immediately. "Doesn't act like the others." He kept watching. Arjun turned, wiping sweat from his forehead, and for a brief moment their eyes met. There was no hesitation. No sudden lowering of gaze. No nervousness. Just a calm, direct look. And then Arjun looked away as if it didn't matter. That was new. Karim continued walking, but something had shifted inside him. The inspection went as expected. Technical discussions, timelines, cost breakdowns. Karim listened, asked precise questions, and made decisions with the same efficiency that had built his empire. But his attention kept drifting. Every now and then, his eyes would search for that same figure in the distance. Arjun. He noticed the way the young man worked, not lazily, not hurriedly, but with intention. Every movement had purpose. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just doing his job well. At one point, Karim deliberately walked closer to where Arjun was working. "Sir, this section is still under review," the manager said quickly. Karim ignored him. He stopped just a few feet away from Arjun. Up close, the details became clearer. The slight tension in his jaw. The focus in his eyes. The quiet strength in the way he carried himself. "You," Karim said calmly. Arjun looked up. "Yes." Again, no fear. Karim studied him for a second before speaking. "You corrected the beam earlier." Arjun nodded. "It wasn't aligned properly. Most workers would have apologized or spoken carefully, or tried to sound respectful. Arjun just answered. Simple. Direct. "You speak with certainty," Karim said. "I speak when something is wrong," Arjun replied. "If I stay quiet, the building suffers." For a moment, silence settled between them. The manager looked nervous, unsure how this exchange would end. But Karim almost smiled. "Almost. What is your name?" he asked. "Arjun." "No, sir." No hesitation. "Just Arjun." Karim nodded slowly. "Continue your work." Arjun gave a short nod and turned back without another word. As Karim walked away, something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. It wasn't desire, not yet. It was curiosity. A deep, unsettling curiosity. Later that evening, Karim stood alone by the window of his hotel suite, overlooking the endless lights of the city. Mumbai never slept. It breathed, moved, lived constantly. He should have been reviewing documents. Instead, his thoughts kept returning to a single moment. That look, that lack of fear. For years, everyone around him had treated him the same way, With respect, yes, but also distance. Careful words. Controlled behavior. No one spoke freely. But Arjun. He hadn't tried to impress him. He hadn't tried to avoid him. He had simply been himself. Kareem exhaled slowly. Strange. He picked up his phone, then paused. Why was he thinking about a worker? Why did it matter? And yet, it did. He placed the phone back down. Interesting, he murmured to himself. Outside, the city continued its restless rhythm. Inside, for the first time in a long while, something had begun to shift within Sheikh Kareem Al-Hassan. Not a decision. Not a desire. Just the beginning of something quiet, unexpected. A single glance that refused to be forgotten. The next morning arrived with the same restless energy that defined Mumbai, but for Sheikh Kareem Al-Hassan, something felt different. Unfinished. He stood before the mirror in his suite, adjusting his watch with precise movements. His routine hadn't changed. Every detail of his appearance remained flawless, controlled, deliberate. Yet his thoughts were elsewhere. Arjun. It was unusual. Kareem was not a man easily distracted. His world was built on discipline, on focusing only on what mattered. And yet, somehow, a single worker had managed to disrupt that focus. By the time Kareem arrived at the construction site, the sun was already harsh, casting sharp shadows across steel beams and unfinished concrete. The workers immediately straightened at his presence. Except one. Kareem's eyes instinctively searched, and found him. Arjun was already at work, lifting materials alongside others, his movements efficient and steady. No hesitation, no performance. Just quiet competence. Kareem didn't approach him immediately. Instead, he observed. "Sir, today we'll review the upper structure," the site manager said, walking beside him. Kareem nodded absently. Later. His attention didn't shift. There was something about the way Arjun carried himself that didn't match his position. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't arrogance. It was independence. And independence, Kareem knew, was rare. An hour passed before Kareem finally moved closer. This time Arjun noticed him first. He paused, straightening slightly but not out of fear, just awareness. "You're here again," Arjun said. The manager nearly choked at the tone. Kareem, however, remained calm. "This is my project." Arjun gave a small nod. "Then you should be here." No flattery. No apology. Kareem studied him carefully. "Do you always speak this directly?" he asked. Arjun wiped his hands on a cloth before replying. "Do you always expect people not to?" The question lingered in the air. For a brief moment, the sounds of construction seemed to fade. Kareem felt something shift again, that same unfamiliar feeling from yesterday. He wasn't irritated. If anything, he was intrigued. "Most people choose their words carefully around me," Kareem said. Arjun shrugged slightly. "Maybe they're afraid of you. And you are not?" Arjun met his gaze again. "Should I be?" The honesty in that question was disarming. Kareem didn't answer immediately. Instead, he changed direction. "You understand construction well," he said. "I've been doing this for years," Arjun replied. "You're overqualified for this position." A small pause. Arjun looked away briefly before responding. "Not everyone gets the position they deserve." There it was. For the first time, something deeper revealed itself. Not weakness but reality. Kareem noticed it instantly. "And what position do you deserve?" he asked. Arjun let out a quiet breath. "One where I don't have to prove myself every day." Kareem's expression softened, just slightly. "That can be arranged." The words came out naturally, almost too naturally. Arjun's reaction was immediate. Suspicion. His eyes narrowed just a little. "Why?" A simple question, but heavy with meaning. "Why me?" Kareem had no immediate answer. "Because you're different. Because you don't fear me. Because I want to understand you." None of those were things he could say. Instead, he replied, "I value talent." Arjun held his gaze for a few seconds longer, as if trying to read something beneath the surface. Then he nodded once. "I'll think about it." The rest of the day passed, but the tension didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger. Kareem found himself watching Arjun more openly now, not in a way that others noticed but enough that he could observe the details. The way Arjun helped other workers without making it obvious. The way he refused shortcuts even when no one was watching. The way he stayed silent unless something needed to be said. It was rare. And Kareem was not used to rare things existing outside his control. By late afternoon, the heat began to settle, and the site slowly quieted. Kareem made a decision. "Arjun," he called. Arjun turned. "Come with me," Kareem said. The manager froze. Workers nearby exchanged glances. But Arjun didn't move. Why? He asked. Again, that word. What? Karim stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. I want to speak with you privately. Arjun crossed his arms slightly. You can speak here. A challenge. Subtle but clear. Karim exhaled slowly. You don't trust me. It wasn't a question. Arjun didn't deny it. I don't know you. Fair. Honest. And frustrating. Karim studied him for a long moment before speaking again. Then get to know me, he said. The words carried weight, not authority but something else. Something almost personal. Arjun hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty appeared on his face. Not fear. But conflict. You're offering me something, Arjun said slowly. But you're not saying what you want in return. Karim's expression didn't change, but internally, the words struck deeper than expected. Because Arjun was right. There was something he wanted. He just hadn't defined it yet. I want a conversation, Karim said finally. Arjun studied him again. Longer this time. As if searching for any sign of manipulation. But Karim stood still, open, controlled but not forceful. After a few seconds, Arjun nodded slightly. Fine, he said. But not here. Karim raised an eyebrow. Where then? Arjun hesitated again before answering. Later, he said. I'll decide. That evening, as Karim returned to his suite, he felt something unfamiliar settling within him. Anticipation. It had been years since he had waited for anything, or anyone. Yet now, he was waiting. For a decision that was not his to control. And that, more than anything else, unsettled him. Across the city, Arjun sat alone on a small rooftop, the noise of Mumbai humming below him. He replayed every word of the conversation. Every look. Every pause. There was something about Karim that didn't match what he expected. He wasn't forceful. He wasn't careless. But he also wasn't clear. And that made him dangerous in a different way. Arjun leaned back, staring at the darkening sky. Who are you? He murmured quietly. The question lingered, unanswered. But one thing was certain now. This was no longer just about work. Something had begun. Something neither of them fully understood. And neither of them could ignore. The city had begun to glow under the night sky. Mumbai transformed after sunset, less chaotic yet somehow more alive. Lights flickered across buildings, distant traffic hummed like a constant rhythm, and the humid air carried a strange mix of calm and restlessness. Inside his hotel suite, Sheikh Karim Al Hassan stood near the window once again. Waiting. It wasn't something he was used to. Time, for Karim, had always been something he controlled. Meetings, decisions, outcomes. Everything moved according to his will. But tonight was different. Tonight he had no certainty. Only a possibility. Hours earlier he had given Arjun a choice. No pressure. No command. And yet, the weight of that choice lingered heavily in his mind. Would he come? Karim exhaled slowly, loosening his collar slightly. It was a small, almost insignificant gesture. But for a man like him, it revealed something deeper. Nervousness. Or perhaps, anticipation. Across the city, Arjun stood outside a small roadside tea stall, a glass of chai warming his hands. His friends had already left. The usual laughter and noise had faded, leaving him alone with his thoughts. He replayed the conversation again. You're offering me something, but not saying what you want in return. That was the part that stayed with him. Men like Karim always wanted something. Power didn't exist without expectation. And yet, Karim hadn't pushed, hadn't demanded, hadn't even insisted. That was what made it difficult. Arjun took a slow sip of tea, his gaze distant. Just a conversation, he murmured. It sounded simple. But it didn't feel simple. Back in the suite, Karim checked the time. 11:17 p.m. Too early. Or too late. He wasn't sure anymore. He had told himself he didn't care if Arjun came or not. That it was a passing curiosity. Something temporary. But the silence in the room said otherwise. It felt heavier. A soft knock broke the stillness. Karim's head turned immediately. For a brief moment he didn't move. Then slowly he walked toward the door. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Controlled. Always controlled. But as his hand reached the handle, there was a pause. A rare one. And then, he opened the door. Arjun stood there. Simple clothes. Slightly tired expression. But his eyes, sharp, alert, observant, remained the same. Neither of them spoke for a second. The air between them felt different now. Quieter. More focused. You came, Karim said finally. Arjun gave a small nod. I said I might. A faint shift in Kareem's expression, almost amusement. Come in, he said, stepping aside. Arjun hesitated for just a moment before walking inside. The suite was spacious, elegant, and carefully arranged, just like Kareem himself. Arjun noticed everything. The minimal design. The absence of clutter. The quiet. This is different, Arjun said. Kareem closed the door behind him. Different from what? From where I live, Arjun replied simply. Kareem nodded. I would assume so. A brief silence followed. Neither man rushed to fill it. Sit, Kareem said, gesturing toward a chair. Arjun didn't sit immediately. Instead, he turned slightly, facing Kareem. I didn't come here for comfort, he said. Kareem's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in interest. Then why did you come? The question hung between them. Arjun took a breath before answering. To understand, he said. Understand what? You. The honesty in that single word shifted something again. Kareem studied him carefully. And what do you think you'll find? He asked. Arjun shrugged slightly. That depends on what you show me. Kareem walked past him, pouring a glass of water and placing it on the table. A simple gesture. But intentional. No one speaks to me like this, Kareem said. Arjun glanced at the glass, then back at him. Maybe no one wants to. Or maybe they're smart enough not to, Kareem replied. Arjun almost smiled. Or maybe they're just afraid. Kareem leaned slightly against the table, his gaze steady. And you're still not? Arjun met his eyes again. There was a pause. A shift. Something deeper than before. I don't think you want me to be, Arjun said quietly. The words landed with unexpected weight. Because they were true. Kareem didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked away briefly, just long enough to break the intensity. I invited you here, Kareem said after a moment, because I see potential in you. Arjun didn't react. I can offer you more than this job, Kareem continued. Better opportunities. Better conditions. A different life. Arjun crossed his arms slightly. And in return? There was again. Direct. Unavoidable. Kareem exhaled slowly. In return, he began, then stopped. For the first time, words didn't come easily. Because the truth was complicated. He didn't want obedience. He didn't want control. What he wanted didn't fit into a simple exchange. A connection, Kareem said finally. Arjun's expression shifted, just slightly. That's not something you can buy, he said. I'm not trying to buy it. Then what are you trying to do? Kareem looked at him directly. Understand it. The room fell silent again. But this silence felt different. Less guarded. More real. Arjun slowly sat down, his posture still alert but less resistant. That's a risk, he said. Kareem nodded. Everything worth having is. Another pause. Then Arjun spoke again. If I accept your offer, I don't belong to you. The words were firm. Clear. Important. Kareem didn't hesitate. You don't belong to anyone, he said. Arjun watched him closely, searching for any sign of dishonesty. But there was none. Minutes passed. Conversation continued, slow, careful, but increasingly open. Not about business. Not about power. But about life. Choices. Regrets. Silences. For the first time in years, Kareem wasn't controlling the direction. And for the first time in a long time, Arjun wasn't walking away. As the night deepened, the tension between them didn't disappear. But it changed. From uncertainty. To something quieter. Something forming. Finally, Arjun stood. I should go, he said. Kareem nodded, though something in his expression suggested he didn't want the moment to end. But he didn't stop him. At the door, Arjun paused. If I come back, he said without turning, it'll be my choice. Kareem's voice was calm. I wouldn't accept anything less. Arjun nodded once. And then he left. The door closed softly. Kareem stood still for a long moment, the silence returning, but no longer empty. This time, it felt like the beginning of something. Not defined. Not controlled. But real. The city was quieter that night. Not silent. Mumbai was never truly silent, but calmer, as if the chaos had softened into something more distant. The streets still glowed, the traffic still moved, but inside Sheikh Kareem Al Hassan's suite, there was a stillness that felt almost unfamiliar. He hadn't expected to see Arjun again so soon. And yet, as the clock approached midnight, a quiet certainty settled in his mind. Tonight would not be like the last. Kareem stood near the window, his reflection faint against the glass. He wasn't reviewing documents. He wasn't making calls. He was waiting. Not impatiently, but consciously. There was a difference. A knock came, soft, deliberate. Kareem didn't move immediately this time. Not because of hesitation, but because he understood what this moment meant. Then he walked to the door and opened it. Arjun stood there again. But something had changed. The guarded edge in his posture was still present, but softer now. His eyes still searched, still questioned, but there was less resistance in them. "You came back," Kareem said. Arjun gave a small nod. "I said it would be my choice." "And it is," Kareem replied calmly, stepping aside. Arjun entered without hesitation this time. The room felt different, not because anything had changed physically but because something between them had. Less distance. More awareness. Arjun glanced around briefly before settling his gaze on Kareem. "You weren't sure I'd come," he said. Kareem didn't deny it. "No." Arjun took a few steps further inside. "Good." Kareem raised an eyebrow slightly. "Good? It means this isn't something you're controlling," Arjun said. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Kareem's lips. "You value control," he said. "I value choice," Arjun corrected. They stood facing each other, the silence stretching, but not uncomfortably. This silence held meaning now. "Sit," Kareem said again, more gently this time. Arjun sat. Kareem remained standing for a moment, then moved closer, not too close but enough to shift the space between them. "Why did you come back?" Kareem asked. Arjun leaned back slightly, considering the question. "Because I wanted to," he said simply. Kareem's gaze didn't leave him. "That's not the full answer." "No," Arjun admitted. "It's not." Another pause. "Then, you're not what I expected," Arjun said. Kareem tilted his head slightly. "And what did you expect?" "Someone who gives orders. Someone who takes what he wants," Arjun replied. Kareem's expression darkened slightly, not in anger but in thought. "And instead," Arjun met his eyes. "You ask." The word lingered. Kareem let out a slow breath. "Asking is less effective," he said. "Maybe," Arjun replied. "But it's more honest." That word again. Honest. It seemed to define everything between them. Kareem finally sat down across from him, his posture relaxed but attentive. "You're still cautious," he observed. "I'd be stupid not to be," Arjun said. "And yet you're here." Arjun nodded. "That's the part one don't fully understand." Kareem studied him carefully. "What do you feel?" he asked. The question was unexpected. Arjun frowned slightly. "That's a strange question." "Answer it anyway." A long pause followed. Arjun looked away briefly, then back again. "Curiosity," he said. Kareem didn't react outwardly, but internally the word resonated. "Anything else?" he asked. Arjun hesitated, then spoke more quietly. "Maybe something I don't have a name for yet." The air shifted. Not dramatically, but enough. Kareem leaned forward slightly, his voice lower now, not commanding but personal. "You don't have to define everything immediately," he said. Arjun gave a small, thoughtful nod. "And you?" Arjun asked. "What do you feel?" Kareem didn't answer right away. Because for once, the answer wasn't simple. Finally he spoke. "I feel interested," he said. Arjun raised an eyebrow slightly. "That's it." Kareem's gaze held steady. For now. Minutes passed. Conversation flowed more naturally this time. Still careful. Still measured. But no longer forced. They spoke about small things, work, life, choices, but beneath every word there was something unspoken building. Trust. Slow. Uncertain. But real. At one point their hands brushed, briefly, accidentally. Both paused. Neither pulled away immediately. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't intentional. But it was enough to shift something deeper. Arjun looked at him, questioning, searching. Kareem didn't move. Didn't push. Didn't retreat. Just allowed the moment to exist. After a second, Arjun pulled his hand back. But the feeling remained. "This is dangerous," Arjun said quietly. Kareem's expression didn't change. "Why?" "Because I don't know where this leads," Arjun replied. Kareem nodded slightly. "Neither do I." That answer surprised him. "You're okay with that?" Arjun asked. Kareem leaned back slightly, his voice calm. For the first time in a long time, yes. The honesty of that statement settled heavily between them. Because it was real. No control. No certainty. Just something unfolding. Time passed without either of them noticing. Eventually Arjun stood again. But this time there was no tension in the movement. "I should go," he said. Kareem nodded, but his eyes remained on him. At the door, Arjun paused once more. Not out of hesitation, but thought. This doesn't change anything yet, he said. Kareem's response was immediate. I'm not asking it to. Arjun studied him for a moment longer, then gave a small nod, and left. The door closed. But unlike before, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full. Of questions. Of possibilities. Of something neither of them could ignore anymore. Kareem returned to the window, looking out at the city lights once again. But this time his reflection looked different. Less distant. Less controlled. More human. And somewhere in the city, Arjun walked through the quiet streets, his thoughts louder than ever. He didn't have answers. He didn't have clarity. But he had made a choice. And somehow, that choice had already begun to change everything. The days that followed felt different. Not outwardly. The construction site still buzzed with noise, deadlines, and routine. Workers moved as they always did. Instructions were given. Tasks were completed. On the surface, nothing had changed. But beneath it, everything had. Arjun noticed it first. Not in Kareem's actions, but in himself. He found his attention drifting more often. Small things that never mattered before, timing, presence, even silence, began to carry weight. And it irritated him. He wasn't used to uncertainty. He wasn't used to feeling pulled in two directions. And yet that's exactly where he was. One afternoon, as the sun burned high above the unfinished structure, Arjun stood alone near the edge of the site, looking down at the busy streets below. You're distracted. The voice came from behind him. Come. Familiar. Arjun didn't turn immediately. You've been watching. Kareem stepped beside him, his presence quiet but undeniable. You've been distant. Arjun let out a short breath. I'm working. Not like before, Kareem said. That was true. And they both knew it. For a moment, neither spoke. The noise of the site filled the space between them, but it felt distant, like it belonged to another world. Finally, Arjun turned. This was supposed to be simple, he said. Kareem's expression remained steady. It still can be. Arjun shook his head slightly. No, it can't. Pause. Then more quietly. I don't understand what this is. There it was. Not resistance. Not denial. Just honesty. Kareem looked at him carefully, measuring every word before speaking. Then don't define it yet, he said. Arjun frowned. That's easy for you to say. Why? Because you're not the one who has to decide everything, Arjun replied. Kareem's gaze sharpened slightly. You think I'm not deciding? Arjun held his eyes. I think you're used to knowing what you want. That was true. For most of his life, Kareem had never hesitated. But this was different. I know what I don't want, Kareem said slowly. Arjun crossed his arms slightly. And what's that? Control, Kareem replied. The word landed with quiet weight. Arjun studied him carefully. That's hard to believe. It shouldn't be, Kareem said. Not after everything you've seen. Another pause. Then Arjun looked away again, his voice quieter now. If I accept your offer, I leave everything I know. Kareem didn't interrupt. I leave my city, Arjun continued. My work. My independence, at least in some way. You don't lose your independence, Kareem said firmly. Arjun turned back sharply. Then what do I gain? The question was direct. But this time it wasn't defensive. It was real. Kareem didn't answer immediately. Because the answer mattered. You gain a choice, he said finally. Arjun let out a quiet, almost frustrated breath. I already have that. Yes, Kareem agreed. But limited. That struck something. Because it wasn't entirely wrong. Kareem stepped slightly closer, not invading space but closing distance. You've spent your life proving yourself, he said. Fighting for position. For recognition. Arjun didn't deny it. I'm offering you a space where you don't have to fight constantly, Kareem continued. And in return? Arjun asked again. This time the question felt different. Less guarded. More searching. Kareem's voice lowered slightly. In return? I want honesty. Arjun blinked. That's it. That's not a small thing, Kareem said. No, it wasn't. Silence settled again. But now it felt heavier. More decisive. That evening, Arjun sat alone in his small room, the ceiling fan spinning slowly above him. Everything felt louder in the quiet. Every thought. Every possibility. He looked around the room, the simple bed, the worn walls, the life he had built piece by piece. It wasn't much. But it was his. And leaving it behind wasn't easy. "What are you doing?" he muttered to himself. There was no clear answer. Only feelings. Confusion. Curiosity. And something deeper that he still couldn't name. Meanwhile, in his suite, Kareem stood once again by the window. But this time he wasn't waiting. He had already made his decision. Whatever Arjun chose, he would accept it. No pressure. No control. For perhaps the first time in his life, Kareem allowed something important to exist without trying to shape its outcome. And that alone changed him. The next day the air felt different. Heavier. Final. Arjun arrived at the site earlier than usual. Kareem was already there. They saw each other almost immediately. No words. Just a shared understanding. Arjun walked toward him slowly. Purposefully. When he stopped, there was no hesitation left in his posture. "I've made a decision," he said. Kareem nodded once. "I assumed you would." A brief silence. Then, "I'll come with you," Arjun said. The words were steady. Clear. Real. Kareem didn't react immediately. But something in his expression softened, just slightly. "Why?" he asked. Not because he doubted him, but because he wanted to hear the truth. Arjun took a breath. "Not for money," he said. Kareem said nothing. "Not for comfort." Still nothing. Then, "For the chance to see where this goes." The honesty in that answer was undeniable. Kareem nodded slowly. "That's enough," he said. But Arjun wasn't finished. "This doesn't mean I belong to you," he added. Kareem's response was immediate. "You don't. And if I change my mind?" "You're free to," Kareem said. No hesitation. No conditions. Arjun studied him one last time. Looking for doubt. For control. For anything that would make him step back. But there was nothing. Only certainty. And something else. Respect. "All right," Arjun said quietly. And just like that, the decision was real. As they stood there, surrounded by noise, dust, and unfinished structures, something else began to take shape. Not defined. Not promised. But chosen. By both of them. For Kareem, it was the first time he had allowed someone into his world without control. For Arjun, it was the first time he had stepped into the unknown by choice. And somewhere between those two decisions, something stronger than either of them had expected, had finally begun. The morning of departure arrived quietly. No dramatic change in the sky. No sign from the world that something significant was about to happen. Mumbai moved as it always did, busy, loud, alive. But for Arjun, everything felt different. He stood outside the airport terminal, a single bag resting beside his feet. It wasn't heavy. Years of living simply had taught him how little a person truly needed. And yet, the weight he felt had nothing to do with what he carried. It was the decision. Across the entrance, Sheikh Kareem Al Hassan stepped out of his car, his presence as composed as ever. But today there was something beneath that calm surface. Not control. Not distance. Something quieter. Something human. Their eyes met. No words were needed at first. Just understanding. "You're here," Kareem said, walking closer. Arjun gave a small nod. "I said I would be." There was no hesitation in his voice now. No uncertainty. Only choice. Kareem glanced briefly at the bag. "That's all?" Arjun followed his gaze. "That's enough." Kareem nodded slightly. He understood that answer more than he expected. For a moment they stood there, two men from completely different worlds now standing at the same point. Not equal in power. Not equal in experience. But equal in decision. "Once we leave," Kareem said, his tone calm, "things will change." Arjun met his eyes. "I know. You'll be in a different country. Different environment." "I know." A small pause. "And this," Kareem continued, "whatever this is, it may change too." This time Arjun didn't answer immediately. He looked away briefly, watching people move in and out of the airport. Lives intersecting, separating, continuing. Then he looked back. "Everything changes," he said. "That doesn't mean it's wrong." Kareem held his gaze for a second longer. There was something in that answer he respected deeply. Acceptance. Not fear. Inside the terminal, the air felt cooler, quieter, almost detached from the chaos outside. They walked side by side, not rushed, not slow. Balanced. At the check-in counter, everything moved efficiently. Kareem handled the formalities with ease, while Arjun observed quietly. This world was new to him. But he didn't feel out of place. Not anymore. As they moved toward the departure gate, Arjun finally spoke again. "I'm not doing this because I trust you completely," he said. Kareem glanced at him. "I wouldn't expect you to. I'm doing this because Arjun paused, searching for the right words. Kareem didn't interrupt. Because I want to see what happens, Arjun finished. Simple. Honest. Real. Kareem nodded once. That's enough, he said again. They reached the gate. Final call would come soon. A quiet stillness settled between them, not uncomfortable, not uncertain. Just present. Last chance, Kareem said. Arjun looked at him, a faint hint of a smile appearing for the first time. If I wanted to leave, I wouldn't be here. That answer carried more certainty than anything else. Kareem didn't smile often. But this time, he did. As they walked toward the boarding line, something shifted once more. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But clearly. This was no longer about curiosity. No longer about tension. No longer about uncertainty. It was about choice. Two people stepping into something unknown. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. As the plane lifted into the sky, Mumbai slowly disappeared beneath the clouds. For Arjun, it was the first time leaving everything behind. For Kareem, it was the first time taking something real with him. Neither of them knew what would come next. There were no promises, no guarantees, no defined future. But there was something stronger than all of that. A beginning.